Welcome back to Path to Glory, the Warhammer Underworlds podcast that focuses on competitive gaming, player development, and community growth. This episode was made possible by our patrons. Thank you so much to everyone who supports us. If you're interested in supporting the podcast monetarily, please check us out at patreon.com/Path to Glory. If that's not possible, that's totally okay. We still appreciate the listens and the ratings. As always, this is your host, Aman Khusro, and I'm joined by my co-host, my undead co-host,
Ooh.
my wraith creeping co-host, Jonathan Davis.
Is that what they mean when if somebody says I'm a creeper? Is that what they've meant this whole time?
Yeah, you just pretty much got a horse face and you wear a giant hood.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes it much better now. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is funny that they're called the Wraithcreepers.
That's right. In case you couldn't tell by the adjectives used today, in this episode we will be covering the second warband in the Warhammer Underworlds starter set, Drepur's Wraithcreepers. They have 4 fighters. Big surprise, another 4-fighter warband. And they have 32 faction cards, 12 objectives, 10 gambits, 10 upgrades, and we'll be going over their, honestly, all of those cards. It's going to be pretty exciting. If you're interested in understanding what the purpose of this starter set is, check out our Storm of Celestis episode that we recorded before this. It should be posted by the time of listening, and we go ahead and explain that there. And then we cover that warband in that episode, and then now here we are for this new one, Drepur's Wraithcreepers. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we'll start with the fighter cards. This time, we'll take turns. So I'll start with the fighter cards, and we'll go from there. So, first up, we've got our leader, Viceroy Draper. 3 move, 2 dodge, 4 wounds. It's pretty solid, I think, the 2 dodge off the bat.
Yeah.
Range 2, 2 smash, 2 damage. Kind of like a ghostly Duke Crackmarrow off the bat there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
like the Briar Queen, too. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you that Briar Queen vibe. I really like how they have the faction logo in the upper right-hand corner, and then what it looks like to be the Grand Alliance symbol below it. So that's kind of really cool because they've been releasing Grand Alliance dice, and Grand Alliance Death dice are also up for pre-order now.
Yeah, there's also that mini game. I think is it called Avatars, where you can kind of build like your own warband. And that one's by Grand Alliance. So
yeah,
they must have figured it was a good idea to put it in there.
Yeah, helps people follow along. Kind of looks like the logo for the Sepulchral Guard too. So
true.
That's interesting. Well, Viceroy Draper is the leader, denoted by the leader keyword, or actually symbol, the crown. He's got an intangible rule, so when this fighter makes a move action, it can move through blocked and occupied hexes. It must end its move action in an empty hex. Important thing to note, unlike the Lady Harrows and Thorns of the Briar Queen, it looks like this warband can take damage from lethals.
Yeah, that's true. I like that.
I do too. Kind of evens the playing field a little bit, which I think is well deserved after many years of being of my opponent saying, "Do you want to place a lethal hex?" No, I don't. Sorry.
Yeah.
That just hurts me in the long run. So Viceroy Draper inspires by, at the start of your activation, 1 or more enemy fighters are within 2 hexes of this fighter. So that's his uninspired side. Very familiar to Thorns of the Briar Queen in terms of design, I think.
Yeah, this is just better.
It is.
Yeah, you just don't have to be, don't even have to be next to him. So
this would be great on the Briar Queen. It'd be she'd be more broken.
If by great you mean a complete nightmare.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's funny. So when Draper inspires, he looks pretty rad on his fighter card. So he's got 3 smash. So that's the first update. He goes to 4 move as well, which is pretty cool. And his Hunter's Glaive weapon, which is attack, he gets reroll 1 dice in the attack roll for this attack action.
Yeah. I think he's the most accurate fighter in the game.
He might be. What do you think of him? What do you think about Draper?
I think he's a pretty cool fighter. The inspire condition is great. It basically means you just don't want to get anywhere near him. And man, 3 smash with a reroll is also pretty great. I would say his only weakness is that he doesn't have any more damage. But I guess if he did, it would just be insane.
Yeah.
So once you give him a couple damage upgrades, I mean, that's going to be pretty incredible. He's really not going to miss that much.
Yeah, 3 smash
with a reroll.
3 damage with a reroll. Sorry, 3 smash, 2 damage with a reroll, and then if you give him great strength,
yeah,
it's pretty much bye, Felicia.
And
wow,
relatively hard to hit with 2 dodge, 4 health, solid. I mean, this guy is kind of a force to be reckoned with in matchups against low health fighters too. He's going to be devastating. He doesn't even need the damage.
No, he doesn't. Yeah, I'm very the interesting thing about like death warbands is their leaders always tend to be quite important in terms of the design and the efficiency of the warband. And like if you look at the Briar Queen, you look at the Duke, Lady Harrow, even the Warden, right, and then Prince Duval. Now, they're pretty solid fighters. They generally tend to be the best fighter, if not one of the best, and so.
Yeah, that's true.
Drepur is no exception here.
Not at all, yeah.
No. So the next fighter is the Patrician. I think he is probably the coolest or the most interesting one. So he starts with 3 move and 2 dodge as well, and he's also on 4 wounds, which is pretty solid. He's got a range 1, 3 fury, 1 damage attack. So I guess it makes sense. He's not holding a pole or like a halberd.
Yeah.
So I guess he just bites you instead. He doesn't even hit you with the drumstick. He just bites you. That's interesting. He's got the intangible special rule. So again, he can move through fighters and, ignore certain things, but still vulnerable to lethal. His Inspire is interesting. At the start of your activation, each other surviving friendly fighter is in enemy territory.
Yeah.
So I think just if you want to inspire the Patrician, you have to play aggressively.
Yeah, I think that I don't know how important it is that he be inspired. It seems like it's nice. But why don't we finish the rest of his card?
Yeah. So he's got a Deathbeat reaction. After an opponent's power step, choose 1 friendly fighter and push that fighter 1 hex towards the closest enemy fighter. That's pretty insane.
Oh boy, yeah. It's really, really, really good.
Yeah, it's insane. So when he inspires, he goes to 4 move. His melee attack goes to 2 damage, and that's really it.
Well, the Deathbeat gets better too.
Doesn't it?
Choose up to 2 friendly fighters and push each one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's pretty amazing.
So you kind of do want to inspire him, but
yeah, I guess you do.
I also feel like after everyone's already in enemy territory, maybe it's not this Deathbeat reaction is not as powerful.
I think you're right. Because by then everyone's probably inspired. But it depends what you're trying to do. I think if you're trying to control or block objectives, it could be pretty annoying. And it looks like he can push himself too, because it doesn't say other.
Right.
So this is so much mobility for this warband. It's really cool.
It's wild.
And then his attack right off the bat isn't that good, but I think you're going to want to keep him safe in this warband because of all the mobility that he's providing you. So I don't know if you really want to go in that early. But 3 Fury, 2 Smash isn't terrible once he inspires. And the 4 move's nice. So I guess, like you were saying, towards the end of the game, he becomes less important, but then you can just kind of throw him at people if you need to. So
yeah, exactly. Right. So I think the power behind this fighter is definitely just reaction, push, reaction, push, reaction, push.
Yeah.
Aside from that, you probably want to avoid combat. And then maybe towards the end of a game, if some of your fighters are down, maybe you can just tool them up, and 3 Fury isn't bad, so.
Yeah, because he is, in some ways, he's your second best fighter as well, once he's inspired. So it's an interesting, and yeah, mainly because of the 4 wounds. So that's pretty interesting. I think how you use him and how you keep him safe will be, part of what comes from playing this warband. Part of the skill involved.
Integral to your success for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so
Okay.
much power being able to move your warband around like that.
Yeah, very cool. Very very nice with the inspire mechanic as well. Which I guess we'll jump to the last two fighters. It's Sire Hackfell and Grodrick the Lance.
Yeah.
Both of them are 3 move, 1 dodge, 3 wounds. Both of them have a range 2 attack for 2 smash and 2 damage. They also both have the intangible ability, and they have the same inspire as their leader. At the start of your activation, 1 or more enemy fighters are within 2 hexes of this fighter. So fairly identical, very respectable profiles. If they inspire, they both go to 4 move and 2 dodge. They stay at 3 wounds, and they each get a keyword. Hackfell gets cleave, and Grodrick gets ensnare.
Yeah.
What do you think about these fighters?
So there's some things that I don't like about them. The 1 dodge and the 1 dodge and the 3 wounds, I guess, are the part that kind of scares me about them. But they do have a very easy inspire condition, I think. So I think that is, I think that's where the skill's going to come in with using these two fighters. Is how do you get them inspired to get that second defense dice? And then they do become pretty annoying with the range 2. And basically their range 2 attack is pretty good. And then depending on what the matchup is, you'll want the cleaver and snare a little bit more. So they're interesting. What do you think about them?
I kind of like the fact that it gives you an opportunity to build into whatever the best keyword is for your matchup. So
Yeah.
like if you're fighting against like a Stormcast, right? Which why not? Your Storm of Celestis, for example, then maybe Grodrick is less important to you, and he could act as bait, or maybe like be one of the first fighters you charge with. You know.
Yeah.
And then once they're committed or they've countercharged, etc., then maybe you can get Hackfell inspired, maybe through a push, or something, and then he starts cleaving away at that Stormcast armor. Vice versa, if you're playing against ghouls or gits, like Grodrick is probably better because of the ensnare. So
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
I think
It's
that's
cool
really
how
cool.
in different matchups the importance of them will change. So
Yeah. Obviously, the most important is Viceroy Draper.
yeah.
He's a monster. So after looking at these 4 fighter cards, like, what do you think? Like, do you like them? Like, do you think they're balanced? Like, obviously there's a 2 clear standouts here with the Patrician and the leader, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Roderick and Sire Hackfell are bad either.
I don't think they are bad. My initial impression of this warband was that they were a little bit understated compared to some of the ones that we've seen recently, such as the vampires, who seem like they have, they're kind of stacked for their raw stats, it seems like, and their flexibility. But I think what you have to calculate with this warband is that as long as the Patrician is alive, this might be the most like mobile warband that we've seen yet. And then the other thing that I think you really just can't ignore is having 3 fighters with range 2 attack actions.
Yes.
So they're certainly not as durable off the bat as the vampires might be, for example. But they may be more flexible in some ways, or more, I don't know. They may just be able to do things that the vampires won't be able to do. They're definitely going to have situations where they're able to just make a bunch of attack actions, particularly like late in the game when maybe you've lost some fighters. That range is going to start to really shine, whereas the vampires only have 1 fighter with range. So not to compare them necessarily to them, but I think in some ways these are going to be similar.
Yeah, and it's really easy to make comparisons to the Crimson Court because we've just did an episode on them, and they're just
Yeah.
coming out. But I think for a starter warband, these guys teach you some great fundamentals. Again, like prioritizing the inspire, or the cleave or the ensnare, and then of course you've got that reaction, so it's teaching you about reactions, and then of course you've got a beat stick of a leader, and then as you mentioned, that range 2 is incredible. One thing that I really like about these is you mentioned that range 2 because honestly, like some of the top warbands right now, like Crushes and Mollog. Like Mollog loves fighting against range 1 warbands because even if you push him back, he can still hit you. You drive him back. But if you start going toe to toe with him with range 2 warbands or fighters, if you drive him back, then he's now out of range. Right? So that's I think really neat. And then with Crushes, again, they're range 1. So You can kind
Yeah,
of take advantage of that as well.
and with crushes, it's going to be hard to go in and make an attack on any of these fighters and not inspire probably at least 2 or 3 of them because of the
Yeah.
way the inspire works, and the way that the push works. Not only do you have probably cards to help you position and inspire, you have the drumbeat. So they're incredibly flexible. And when you factor in how easy the inspire condition is, it makes this warband a lot more powerful. I do think some of their weaknesses though are they're relatively low damage. So you're going to want to make sure you pack in some damage upgrades. But other than that, it's really just the 3 wounds on the 2 smaller guys.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. Woe be to objective warbands running into these guys though.
Yeah,
They're
yeah. I
just going to go
mean,
to town.
I know that second round when everybody's probably in range and you have 3 of these guys swatting at you. It's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
You probably don't
Yeah.
even have to charge with at least 1 or 2 of them because they're just in range of multiple fighters.
And they
It's
just
going to be
slide, they
exciting.
just keep sliding around. So,
Mm-hmm. Drum beat, baby. Drum beat.
right.
Okay. Well, good summary of the fighters there. Let's jump to the objectives. There's 12 of them. Jonathan, why don't you go ahead and read them off?
All right. So I have the first one as Death's Bounty. It is 3 glory. Score this in an end phase if 4 or more enemy fighters are out of action. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I mean, again, like whenever you see 3 glory, you're like, can I make this work? And unfortunately, because of the fact that there are warbands that consist of entirely less than 4 fighters, this can be extremely matchup dependent. And because we are a competitively focused podcast, we cannot in good conscience tell you to run this card because you might not able to even score it in some games. So while the idea is cool and makes sense, and essentially in the starter set means wipe your opponent, we're not
Mhm.
big fans of annihilation on this podcast.
Yeah, yeah. I think in this starter set, it's fine. It's not even a bad card in some games. I mean, if you know the meta is full of big warbands, then it's cool. But we like to min max everything. So let's go to the next one. It is Death's Triumph for 2 glory. Score this in an end phase if your warband holds 2 or more objectives in enemy territory.
Yeah. So you get treasure hunter vibes,
Yeah, I guess
right?
is Treasure Hunter 3 or is it
I think
just 2?
treasure hunter is 3.
Okay, so it's a little bit worse than Treasure Hunter, maybe. I guess you could take both of them, and that would be an interesting strategy.
Yeah, well, because the warband naturally wants to be aggressive, so I can see why you would want to maybe consider that.
Yeah.
So I definitely think if this is your plan, you definitely double down.
Hmm.
Um, but I think if you pick one, then you pick treasure hunter. Um,
Right.
But this is interesting. I mean, I can see why. I mean, like Crushers kind of play like this right now, right? Where they get aggressive, they want to hold objectives in your territory. So
Yeah.
not only do you have 1 extra fighter, but you've got that drumbeat reaction as well. So I actually don't think this is a bad card at all. I think it requires some forethought and some planning, but I can see you doing this very often with this warband, and so I think I like it.
Yeah, I think that I think basically I need to play them to really be sure, but they have such incredible mobility, especially if you're able to get the um, Patrician inspired. This might be one of the better warbands at this,
Yeah.
along with some of the really large warbands like Grimwatch or something like that. Be interesting to try it if they're going to be aggressive and in enemy territory anyway. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
The next one is Deathly Blooms. Score this in an end phase if your warband holds 1 or more objectives in enemy territory for 1 glory. What do you think about that?
Yeah, similar concept to the card we just
Mm-hmm.
went over, Death's Triumph and Treasure Hunters. Again, like you could take all 3 of those, and then you could have 6 glory tied up in that. But again, like as we've mentioned, without the risk of sounding redundant, like if there's one warband that can do this, it is this warband.
Yeah, for 1 glory, I think this is fine. Grimwatch have a similar card. I've taken it before. I score it pretty regularly. So just depending on the card pool, I think you think about it. Next one is Dread Harvest. Score this in an end phase if 2 or more enemy fighters are out of action for 1 glory. I think we may have just reviewed a card like this the other day.
Yeah, I think we did, and ultimately not worth the investment. I mean, when you eliminate 2 enemy fighters, you get 2 glory. Um,
Yeah.
But generally, when you're taking out fighters, it's so that they can stop you. You can stop them from stopping you from doing what you want to do. And I just don't think you run these guys straight aggro. You probably
Yeah.
could, and if that's the case, then maybe. But I think like cards like Bold Deeds or Dominant Display are just better.
Right.
So
Yeah. There are some
uh,
better
we
universals.
we kind of just joke that it's not too glory, so don't take it. And I think this joke applies here as well.
But that's also meta dependent. So, not to say that's a very scoreable card in most situations. Um, Next one is Ethereal Hunters. It is a surge. Score this immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter made a charge action in which they moved through one or more blocked and or occupied hexes. What do you think about that?
So I like this one a lot. This is
Yeah.
actually an amazing card because it's like it's a similarity between Gathered Momentum and the Lady Heroes card for doing the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Inescapable. No, it's not inescapable. What is it called? I don't know what it's called. But this one's really cool because I think it's an improvement upon the concept because you have to charge, right? Which is pretty neat. It's not just ending an activation next to an enemy fighter. And then, a lot of times there are some really good boards that come in the starter set and they have blocked hexes on them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a really cool way to take advantage of that and then make those boards more useful. But even if you don't want to take a board with blocked hexes, it's just move through an occupied hex, which just means you can be, occupying by your friendly fighter or an enemy fighter. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can
This
just charge
this is a great
through
card.
your boy. Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. I mean the thorns I think have the same one, but they need to do it twice, and then I guess it doesn't have to be a charge, and then the Harrows one I think only works with a block tech, so it can be a little bit limiting on what board they pick. So
Yeah.
this one is super open. I guess really the only requirement is that you charge, and maybe you won't want to do that sometimes. If someone's in range, you'll just want to smack them. But for a surge, I think it's worthwhile. So I like
Yeah.
it a lot.
Round one, round two, it's insane. This is
Yeah,
auto include for this warband.
I think so. The next one, or maybe I have the same one in place. The next one is Inevitable Advance.
Mm-hmm.
Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has one or more move and or charge tokens for one glory.
It's a
What do
pretty
you think
reliable
about
card.
that?
So I
Yeah.
like running Run Ragged in like 4-man warbands or
Mm-hmm.
smaller because it's really easy to control your side of the board, and then if you eliminate other fighters who haven't charged, then you can kind of game that strategy. And in this situation, so Wild Hunt have a similar card called Safety and Swiftness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Essentially, just move 4 times or charge 4 times, and that's cool. So there might be instances where you don't want to do this because the drumbeat is pumping your fighters up, and you just want to keep smacking with maybe like a fully tuned like Viceroy or something like that. But
Yeah.
for like rounds 1 and 2, I think this is pretty solid. Um, and remember, it's each surviving friendly fighter, so if you just have one left and you just make sure you charge with them at some point during the round, you score 1 glory.
Yeah, I think we see a lot of team effort in smaller warbands like this.
Mm-hmm.
And that one, needs to have at least two. So I think this is a really good one glory card, and that's probably its only
Yeah.
real downside. The next one is Massed Blades. Score this immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter made an attack action with one or more supporting fighters. What do you think about that?
So I'm pretty sure we saw this in the vampire set as well.
Yeah, I think we did.
Like Blood Hunt or something like that, but
Yeah, Crimson Hounds, I think.
oh yeah, that's what it was. So this one is a lot easier to do because of the range too,
And because of the drumbeat.
and because of the drum beat. So,
Yeah.
In that warband, I wasn't a big fan. In this warband, I think this is a pretty solid card. Like if
Yeah.
I saw my opponent running this, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's interesting. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense.
Because with the vampires, if you charge me and knock one of my guys away by driving him back, then I'm going to have to use cards to get back in position. Even if you charged me and drove me back one, I can then just drumbeat back that fighter and then charge with somebody else, and I'm going to score this. So I think it's way easier than the vampire version because of the way this warband works. So I like it a lot. Next one is Piercing Blow. It's a surge for 1 glory. Score this immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter's attack action with cleave was successful. So it's basically what armor?
Yes, it is what armor, but the interesting thing to note here is that I believe only one of the fighters has cleave.
Yeah, and only on the Inspire side, although it is a relatively easy Inspire.
Yeah, so because of that, I think this can be challenging, especially because that fighter has 3 wounds and has to be
Mm-hmm.
in enemy territory or at least near an enemy to inspire. So I think this is actually one of those situations where you probably don't take this card. I mean, the Essentials pack has like Mutating Maul,
Yeah,
and then there are other weapons that have Cleave, so you could like kind of aggressively go into Cleave, but I don't think that's worth a 1 Glory Surge personally.
I think you're right. The next one is Scythed Down. Score this in an end phase if 3 or more enemy fighters are out of action for 2 glory. I like this a little better than the 4 fighters out of action for 3 glory.
Yeah.
But we've talked about these recently. I don't think these are bad cards. They're just a little bit of a meta call. 4 fighter or smaller meta, or even a 5 fighter smaller meta, I think these get a little bit tough, and I think that's where we're at right now.
Yes, I agree. Let's just go to the next one.
Yeah. The next one is The Hunt Pursues. Score this in an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter is in enemy territory for 1 glory.
Yeah, so I really like this if you want to inspire the Patrician.
Yeah.
And you want to get close to the opponent. I think a lot of times, like opponents will charge into you anyways, right? Especially if they're playing aggro. So this might be in a situation. It's kind of like Bold Deeds and the Hunt Advances, right? Where
Yeah.
sometimes it's just hard to score those cards because your opponent wants to be in your territory as much as you want to be in theirs.
Yeah,
So,
you could almost make a whole deck, I think, at this point where the whole goal is just to get in their territory.
yeah. And with these guys, you can do it very easily because of
Yeah.
as you mentioned, the drum beat. But I don't know. Again, 1 Glory. I mean, I guess it combos a lot and stacks with some of the other cards we're talking about here, but um, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I'm like a 50-50 on this one.
I think for 1 glory, I'd probably give this one a pass, but I think for a starter deck, it kind of helps sort of cement how this warband is designed to play. So
Correct. Yeah, that's
I
a
like
good
that about it. The next one is Unstoppable Death. It's a surge for 1 glory. Score this immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter made a charge action, in which they took an enemy fighter out of action. So we've seen these before. Get a fighter with a charge action. I think
Yeah,
these
the
are all
Guardians
right.
had it. Yeah, the Guardians had it. Wild Hunt have it with Run Down.
Yeah.
I think this is good. You want to make attacks? You want to fight people? Knock yourselves out. Not a bad card. Not a bad
Yeah.
card at all.
I agree. It's probably not quite as good as the other one for charging through an enemy, but it's probably the next best one that we've seen so far as far as their surges go.
Yeah, I mean you can score both of those at the same time technically.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing. So I like that about it. Next one is Vengeance of Nagash. Score this. It's a surge. Score this immediately after an activation in which a friendly fighter made an attack action that took an enemy leader out of action for 1 glory.
Think
These
we've
cards
talked
can
about
just
these.
go home. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you listen to this podcast regularly, then
Yeah.
you know how we feel about these. If this is your first time, the one thing I'll leave you with is, while killing the enemy leader is important part of your game plan, having to wait for this card to be in your hand to score it can be detrimental to your game plan because if the option presents itself early enough in the game, you take it. Because if you kill the enemy leader, you are at a serious advantage more often than not. And then what this means is that because you took the tempo play, you have a dead objective in your hand or in your deck. So for that reason, we pass.
Yeah, I agree. And I believe that is all of the objectives.
That's right.
Did you have a favorite one?
Oh, man. I think it's going to have to be Ethereal Hunters for charging through a blocked or occupied hex.
Yeah, that one probably is the best.
Yeah. What about you?
Maybe the one that's the most interesting is going to be the one that was like Treasure Hunters. I forget what it was called.
Death's Triumph.
Yeah, Death's Triumph. I'm not sure if it's that playable, and I guess you'd probably want Treasure Hunter instead. But I bet you could make a pretty fun deck that moves into their territory and then tries to control the objectives on their side.
Yeah.
So that one's kind of curious to me. I might give it a try at some point. But
I think it's a good shout. I mean, I definitely think if you can figure out the hold 2 in the enemy territory, and then take cards for scoring and being in enemy territory. Can
Yeah.
be pretty dirty.
Could be it's probably surprising for your opponent when you play it. So
Yeah. Well, I don't
um,
know. I don't know about anymore because that's the game plan. It might be the de facto way to play them.
yeah, that's true.
I'm gonna try
That's
it.
true. But in future metas, maybe that won't be the case. So
True.
something to think about.
Dun dun dun. Let's go to the Gambits. So the first card here is Deadly Vengeance.
Ooh.
It's a reaction. Play this during an enemy fighter's attack action. After the deal damage step, if that attack action will take a friendly fighter out of action, that friendly fighter makes an attack action.
Yeah. So I think this is maybe the best version of this card that we've seen before.
Yeah.
A lot of the other ones like this require a reroll, or like a roll, and it will be like a 50-50 or maybe even worse than a 50-50.
Yeah.
It's
Or
also
an upgrade.
Yeah, it's also not an upgrade, which is really important because you can surprise the opponent with this. And then I'm just thinking if you use this on the leader, you're probably going to hit. So I like that about it too. So I think this is pretty good. I think you consider this card. I'd still probably rate it like a B out of A, B, C, D. But I think I'm going to try it.
Yeah. I really like it.
It's just a little slow because you have to lose your fighter.
Yeah, but you've got 2 3-wound fighters. So
Yeah.
you're going to lose one of them anyways. And so getting an extra attack can be worth it. And then even if you don't have the card in your hand at the time, I imagine you're going to stack up the Viceroy to be some sort of tremendous beast.
Yeah.
And your opponent will want to kill the Viceroy. You might as well make them pay for it.
The other cool thing is that the attack action doesn't have to be against the person that killed it. So
That's right.
It's just amazingly flexible compared to some of the other ones like this. So I think we will see some of this one.
Yeah, I think we will too. The next card is Drifting Death. Choose up to 2 friendly fighters. Put each chosen fighter 1 hex closer to the nearest enemy fighter.
This is great. Yeah. I love pushes.
Yeah. Not much to say. I mean, double sidestep is awesome.
I think when you combine this with their natural ability to use the drums, like, this is great. So I think you definitely take this one. Yeah.
This is an A. Next card is Restricted to the Patrician. Man, I love the way these cards are laid out. So much easier to read.
Yeah.
Enervating Beat. Play this only in your power step. -1 damage from enemy fighters range 1 and range 2 attacks in the next activation to a minimum of 1. So as long as the Patrician's on the board, this card can be played. What do you think?
I like this one a little bit. -1 damage is good. It's just a little situational. You just have to make sure that they don't have the damage. They still don't have the damage to kill you. And I think because your fighters are kind of low health, they may be able to still have another target. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so this is like pretty much a proactive like potion of constitution.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
And so for me, like the best part about potion of constitution is that it effectively acts like it stays around, right?
Yeah.
So unless you have an amazing timing on this card, I think that's where you struggle with it because. So first of all, this can be countered by just your opponent saying, "Okay, great strength on my fighter," or etc., whatever.
Yeah.
And I guess that's important. Maybe you force them to spend a glory, but I don't know. I think there are other cards out there that are like better suited for whatever game plan you've got. So I think I am like on the lower end for this card, but I think in a pinch it could be like pretty devastating.
And it may also
in the game.
It may also depend how many other wound cards you have in your deck because. Like effectively, this is a 1 activation plus 1 wound. So if you have 3 or 4 other ways to put stack wounds on, this might make your guys really annoying to kill. So I don't know. Yeah. I think it's situational. So
yeah. Okay. Well, the next card is Fervored Beat. Again, restricted to the Patrician, so only can be played when he is alive.
Yeah.
Play this only in your power step. Enemy fighters' attack actions have Fury characteristic of the next activation.
Yeah. So I think this is a pretty good defensive ploy. Looking at my phone here now, and like 2 smash against 2 dodge is 47. If you change that to fury, it's 35%. So that is a pretty sizable.
12% lower chance
Right.
to hit.
Yeah, like +1 dice is usually like plus 11% or something like that.
Yeah.
So you are messing them up pretty significantly. I would say the weakness of this is that, a lot of warbands just hit on fury anyway. But yeah, it's okay.
Well, the interesting thing is that like the higher the smash characteristic goes, the worse off this card is. So like if you convert a 3 smash attack into a 3 fury attack, while that is significantly different, I think it's still like the 3 fury is still just good to hit you in general. So
Well, it goes from it makes it a 48% attack from a 61. So it is actually a pretty sizable. Well, it's actually not quite as sizable. Like it's like a 12% again. So yeah, it's
12% compounding.
yeah,
That's interesting. I do like that there's no range limitation on this, but to Jonathan's point,
yeah.
most fighters have warbands that hit on Smash and Fury. I guess in this situation, everyone hits on Smash. Actually, no, it doesn't. The Patrician hits on Fury, and even in the Vampire, Anais hits on Fury as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a cool
interesting.
card for them to have, but I think it's a little bit too situational to make
Yeah.
a competitive.
Definitely messes up one of the Thunderhead Great Bow shots, though.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are times when you just really don't want an attack to hit. I just haven't found any of these cards to really be worth the risk. So I don't know.
Okay, well, the next card is Heart Piercer. Play this only in opponent's power step. The first 2 range 2 attack action made by a friendly fighter, and the next activation has Cleave. So
I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I think I'm the resident cleave hater on this podcast, and this isn't really an exception to me.
Yeah, I think this is thrown in there just because the starter deck there is a Cleave objective.
Yeah.
But like I think Cleave on upgrades is cool if they do other things.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, we actually mentioned in the other, I think it was the vampire episode, where you were talking about the upgrade, the Gambit bestial transformation that gives your fighter cleave and ensnare.
Yeah.
And I did the math afterwards, and basically cleave or ensnare is never better than +1 dice. It usually only becomes as good as +1 dice, at least for like most normal attacks. Maybe when you're up to like 4 or 5 dice anyway, it starts being better than in one more because there's some diminishing returns. But effectively, in most situations, this card is not going to be better than just +1 dice. And I don't think we love those cards. So
yeah, I mean, you like Victimize.
I do. But I like Victimize more now that we have Outrun Death, because you can play that on an enemy fighter, and then they become a quarry, and then you can Victimize them.
That's true. That's true. So this card is a no-go.
Yeah.
But it's important to teach the fundamentals to starter players. Horrifying Shriek is the next card. Choose one enemy fighter within 3 hexes of one or more friendly fighters. Push the chosen fighter 1 hex. So another version of distraction.
Yeah, I like the limitation from a balance perspective.
For sure.
I still think it's a great card.
100%. Distraction's good. Distraction with range, not as good, but still very good.
And for this warband, pushing from 3 to 2 means that you inspire. So somebody's trying to be tricky, and you just don't let them. So
nope. Say, get over here.
And that is a horrifying picture of that fighter there.
Yeah, these guys are just creepy. Methodical Attacks is the next card. Reaction: play this after an attack, after an activation in which a friendly fighter made a failed attack action. That fighter makes an attack action again. I feel like this is a death special. Like every death warband has this card except for the Grimwatch and the Vamps, but they're like they don't need it. So
could you imagine if Griswold had this card?
I would cry.
It seems like a
he kind of did for a while with Fueled by Fury.
Yeah.
So
yeah, this is great. Love it.
Great card. Somnolent Beat. Again, restricted to the Patrician. Play this only in your power step. -1 move from enemy fighters in the next activation to a minimum of 0.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Normally, I wouldn't like this really at all, but I think with how popular the speed package is in this meta, I think this is worth considering. Cover ground and wing death require a 6 hex move, and I bet this would mess it up a lot of the time. I'm not sure if it makes the cut, but I like the possibility.
Yeah, you just opponent. Well, so it can only be played in your power step though. That's the hard part, right?
Well, I think
Um,
yeah, because your power step would be before they activate.
correct,
So,
correct. So,
yeah.
so, um, so actually, did I say hard? I meant that's the good part.
Oh. I
Yeah,
think I
yeah.
just
Sorry.
misunderstood you. Yep.
Yeah, no, I misspoke. That's my bad. That's the good part because they play Spectre Wings, and you're like, nope, here's some Nolan beat.
Right.
I
And
know I'm not pronouncing this word right.
I don't know
Somnolent?
how to say it either.
No.
Let us know in the comments.
Thanks, Dave Sanders. Appreciate
Yeah.
it. Stuff of Nightmares is the next card. Choose one enemy fighter within 2 hexes of a friendly fighter and roll 1 attack dice. On a roll of smash, deal 1 damage to the chosen fighter.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit too random for me.
Yeah. Well, it's similar to that like black powder sphere.
Yeah, but basically it's going to go. It's only going to work 1 out of 3 times because it's only smash. So
Right.
yeah,
Yeah, but the card art's cool. It's kind of
yeah, kind
it's
of
literally the stuff of Nightmares.
strange there. Yeah.
Last Gambit, Unending Pursuit. Choose one friendly fighter. Push that fighter 1 hex.
I'll take it. It's another push.
I'd step it up.
Yeah, they love pushes. So
Yeah, very, very interesting Gambit selection here. A lot of pushes, which are awesome. Some 3 cards tied to the Patrician, but it kind of makes really thematic sense because he's playing the drums, and drums have different beats and tunes, and they can do
yeah.
some cool things. What is your favorite card in this set of Gambits?
My favorite one is probably.
Did you already sleeve them and put them in your binder?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
you
did.
savage.
I guess the obvious one would be the attack again card.
Deadly
Those are just
Vengeance?
so powerful. I know I'm gonna take that one.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
thought
think
there
I
was one
like
of the beats that I liked. Maybe
Somnolent
not.
Beat. Fervoured Beat. Enervating Beat. No, I don't think I like any of them.
Yeah, maybe I don't.
I like Drifting Death. That's kind of like the pack advance of the set, if you will. That's pretty good. Horrifying Shriek is good too. So, maybe not as exciting of a cards, but they definitely have utility and use, and I
Mm-hmm.
think you'll be able to use and see them in a myriad of situations. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think that these are very straightforward cards, but some of them are quite powerful. The double push, even the single push, attack again is great. The range 3 distraction is great. And a warband really only needs, 4 solid cards in their faction to, I think, be competitive. So,
yeah.
of each type
Depending
probably.
on the universal pool, but yeah.
Yeah, I think that's always going to have an impact. So, cool. I guess we'll go to upgrades then, if you are ready.
I'm ready.
First one is Bitter Strength. +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions. It's great strength. I like it.
Take it. Don't think about it. Next
Yeah.
card.
The next one is Carrion Companion. After this fighter's attack action, which takes an adjacent enemy fighter out of action, gain 1 glory point. Restricted to Hackfell.
Yeah, so this is interesting. So he is the fighter with the Raven on the base. So that's how you tell the difference between Hackfell and Grodrick.
Yeah. I think he's the one with Ensnare.
Hackfell has Cleave.
Oh, he's the one with Cleave. Okay.
Yeah, so if he's got a Raven on the base, he's got Cleave. This is kind of cool in a way. Essentially, this is Trophy Belt. No,
Yeah.
this is actually better than Trophy Belt. This is Tome of Offering for Well, it's actually a mixture of Trophy Belt and Tome of Offering because it is adjacent enemy fighters, which is
Mm-hmm.
hard because it's more akin to the Duke's ability, actually, the Duke's upgrade. Because even though this is a range 2 fighter, you have to kill someone that's next to you. So that could force you to be weird in limitations, but I think because he's 3 wound and 1 dodge off the bat, this is not even worth the investment. Like if this is on the Viceroy, insane card, but
Yeah.
probably
Take
for
like a
balance
duelist
reasons.
speed and just slide around smacking
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. So probably for balance reasons, like I see why or this card is on Hackfell, but
Yeah.
yeah, no. I don't think you take it.
Fair enough. Next one is Death Grasp. It is a attack action upgrade restricted to Drepur, who is your leader. It is one range. It's range 1, 3 smash, 2 damage, and if it succeeds, give the target 1 move token.
So I like the ability to give move tokens. I really
Yeah.
do. It's a very accurate attack as well. 3 smash, 2 damage. Um, I think the natural strength of this warband and your leader is that range 2. The ability to flex, be quite mobile, smack your fighters around or the enemy fighters around, and you know, kind of abuse that range. In this
Yeah.
situation, I obviously Drepur, which is the Viceroy, will probably be one of your fighters that lasts the longest on the board. But I don't think it's worth this investment. I think you just stack on dice accuracy, defensive dice on your leader, because even though he's doing the Undertaker choke slam, I just don't know. I don't think it's worth it. No, I don't.
Yeah, and I think the range, like if this had knockback on it, so you could hit somebody 2 spaces away and give him a move token, and then he would be like out of range to swing back at you. I'm thinking like a Mollog or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then I might think about it, but I think there's too much other range too that even with the drive back, I don't know if this meaningfully locks up enough important fighters. So it's
Right.
interesting, but yeah, I think you just go for the kill. So
Yeah.
the next one is Deathly Vigor. It's +1 wounds, so they have their own Great Fortitude as well. Love that. Um, I don't know if we need to say anything else. It's great.
We don't.
Next one is Memories of the Hunt, +1 move. I don't like this one that much.
Nope.
Nope.
Not with cards like Outrun Death and
Yeah.
Spectral Wings in the mix.
Yeah.
As when those cards rotate eventually, um, we might see cards like this come back. But because of literally because of the existence of Spectral Wings, you'll never take Great Speed or any cards that are similar to Great Speed. So
Yeah.
pass.
Yeah, exactly. Next one is Murderous Accomplice. It's a reaction after another fighter's move action made as a part of a charge action. Push this fighter, and it's restricted to Grodrick, up to 2 hexes so that this fighter is adjacent to 1 or more of that fighter's targets. So you can slide Grodrick next to the person your fighter is attacking, another fighter. It's okay.
It is okay, but I think if you want this kind of effect, you go Blindside instead, which is a
Yeah.
universal card, and that's a
Hmm.
Gambit. So not only is this extremely telegraphed, but it's also on one of the 2 weaker fighters in the warband, ones that don't last very long. So for that reason alone, I don't think this is worth the investment.
Yeah, I think you're right. The next one is Murder Pact. It is +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attack actions if this fighter has 1 or more supporting fighters. And it is also +1 dice to other friendly fighters' attack actions if this fighter is supporting the attacker. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so this one's a really cool one. I really like the effects that like kind of emanate from one fighter and then maybe do other things. This is really cool because I think you put this on the Patrician because
Hmm.
he's your only melee fighter. So he'll be providing supports or needing the supports moving forward. But I think if this was on any one of your fighters, it is interesting. I like the way that this is designed because this is range 1 or 2 attacks. Sorry, it's
Yeah.
supporting fighters, and supporting means you have to be adjacent to the enemy fighter. So that kind of almost works against your strategy. So for that reason alone, you might decide not to take this. But I think if you do take it, there can be some pretty bonanza moments with this one.
So I actually think I really like it for any of the fighters, because you have the Patrician push in that power step. So before you make the
Sure.
attack, you can set up the support most likely. And then if it hits, because it either has +1 dice or +1 damage, hopefully you've hit and killed the thing, and you have support. So that's going to be a very, very accurate attack. I think you can make this one work, and I like that it's +1 damage to their attacks without taking away defense dice or something like that, like Savage Strength does. So you can take Great Strength, their own Great Strength, and this one, and I think that's a pretty good mix. And I love how flexible it is, because if you have two fighters and either one could attack, depending on what you need, you put it on, or if you're going to make an attack with one fighter and the other one's supporting, depending on what you need, you put it on one or the other one. So I think it's a really cool card.
Yeah, I think it works really well with that Surge Masked Blades as well for getting that supporting attack fighter as well.
Yeah,
So
that's a
there's
good
some
point.
there's some synergy here as well. So yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe this could go on any fighter. And because of the drum beat and the pushes and the distractions that they have in the kit,
Yeah.
they can pretty much do this at any point. So that's a really good point. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it is. I don't know if it's better on the Patrician, but I'm gonna try it. I'm gonna try it.
Yeah, I think it's great for him too. I just don't think it's bad at all. So
Yeah.
go ahead and do the next one.
Am I doing? I think you're doing all of these, right?
Oh yeah. Pall of Fear is the next one. -1 dice from enemy fighters' range 1 and range 2 attack actions that target this fighter to a minimum of 1. It's pretty good.
Yeah, the Lady Heroes have this card and they use it a lot.
I think
Because it
theirs is
keeps
only
their
range 1, so
theirs is only range one. Yeah, their leader is probably the most powerful fighter in their warband, and same in this situation. So, I think this is even good. This is like really good against Malog too.
yeah.
You make his 2 smash attack, 1 smash attack. So, I think this is great. I really like it, and this helps keep your leader alive.
Yeah, I think it helps make up for some of the durability issues this warband might have. So I like it. Yep. And also with all the sliding around, you can sort of make sure that the enemy is within 2 hexes. Although I guess a range 3 attack just avoids this completely. But
Yeah, but
yeah,
that presents its own
yeah,
set of issues as well.
yeah. But those also tend to be relatively low damage. So next one is Tearing Claws. It's restricted to the Patrician. It's a weapon upgrade. Range 1, 2 Fury, and 2 damage. It has Cleave and Ensnare. What do you think about that?
Yeah, so the 2 damage of Cleveland Snare is really good. The 2 Fury is not. Um,
Yeah.
I believe that his normal attack action is already 3 Fury, so that's more uh, accurate. And he does 2 damage on these Inspire side. So this card is actually extremely redundant. The Cleave and Ensnare is cool, but I don't think it's worth an upgrade slot in your deck because it's not a markedly better improvement to his attack profile. If it was like 3 Fury, even then I wouldn't think so because you're just getting it for Cleave and Ensnare. But if this was
Yeah.
like 2 Smash or 3 Smash, then maybe I'd consider it. But it's not.
If only this had room for scything on it.
Yeah, then it'd be a different story.
Yeah. Yeah. As we talked about, Cleave and Ensnare usually just ends up being as good as another dice. So this is basically his inspired attack. Go to the next one. It is the Point of Death. And there is that point. You can re-roll 1 dice in this fighter's attack action rolls during this fighter's charge action. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's interesting because like at one point in the game, you're going to be able to manipulate the board again through the drumbeat, the pushes, and the positioning, to where you can keep attacking with the same fighter, preferably Viceroy.
Yeah.
So I don't know if this is actually that terrific of a card. It's still good. I mean, like I've seen like Thorns of the Briar Queen use this card a lot on the
Yeah.
Everhanged. Um,
Arrows have it too, I think. So it's a theme.
yeah, it's a death theme for sure. But again, I think if you're playing these guys correctly, you're probably not going to be charging very much.
Yeah.
And if you are, you're charging with your other guys, and even then, like they're 2 smash, it's pretty respectable. But
Yeah. I like it. I think it's a slightly more balanced version than some of the accuracy upgrades that we've seen. I think it's a cool concept, and I think in some metas where there isn't much accuracy, you'll consider it. That's particularly because you have so many fighters that can just make attack actions. It may be worth charging with one to get that reroll. But
yeah,
in the current meta, when we have Strength of Terror and Savage Visage and other ways to get accuracy, you might want to take something else, probably more damage, because that's what this warband kind of needs, it seems like. But it's not a bad card for them to have.
No, it's certainly not bad. But again, I think I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. But overall, their upgrades seemed. There are some really good simple cards, and then there are some cards that require a little bit more thought. But I think I like their Gambits better.
Yeah, I like. It's interesting. They have some really good cards, but they're not. They're very simple, and that's probably because the goal here is to teach the game to new players. Um, I mean, more damage is great. More health is great. I like Murder Pact a lot, um, but that's probably about it.
Yeah. So Murder Pact is your favorite.
Yeah,
I'm probably gonna go with Paul of Fear because it makes your Voltron leader a monster, Viceroy Draper.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's it for the faction review. Jonathan, what do you think about this warband holistically?
Hmm. Um, I think they're very interesting. I think that their mobility, particularly if you're able to inspire and keep the patrician alive, um, will lead to some pretty powerful moments, particularly for the leader. I think the possibility of the leader getting tooled up with one or two damage upgrades, and then just sliding around, smacking people is pretty high. Um, I think this warband kind of relies on the universal pool for their objectives. They have a lot of one glory objectives that are very scoreable, but in the current meta, I don't know. I feel like I want more than that. So, but I also think a lot of the current meta objectives probably work pretty well with them because it seems like they want to get in your face. So, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, so it's hard not to make comparisons to Lady Heroes because they're another four fighter death warband.
Yeah.
And they kind of want to do similar things, and their cards are kind of similar. I think Lady Heroes have the advantage in that they have some great surges and some faction objectives. Um,
Yeah.
and so I think in this situation, as you mentioned, they might have a higher reliance on the universal pool. But even then, I think this is one of those death warbands that you want to be aggressive with, but you want to be smart about your positioning as well. And you have the tools to do so. So you can hold
Hmm.
objectives in enemy territory. You can make a lot of attack actions. So I think you can play like an aggro, like hold enemy objective territory um, style of deck, and I think that can be pretty powerful given the fact that there is universal support for that, and you have again all those movement shenanigans and push shenanigans. So I think I find this warband to be harder to play than the Storm of Celestis, but I think this warband can be more rewarding if you put in the time and the practice and you're able to like crack the code, if you will, because this can be a lot of fun, and I think it can do real. I think there's a lot of synergies that can have the potential to blend in really well.
Yeah. It seems like um, they put a lot of the complexity of this warband into how you do those pushes and how you do your positioning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then with the Celestis, it seems like a lot of the complication is in their cards, where they need to hold objectives and they need to, they have some teleport stuff. They have some more complex cards, whereas the cards for this warband tend to be pretty straightforward, um, and like some of them are fine. Um, I think I would probably take 3 to 4 of the upgrades and the gambits, which I think is a sign of quality cards for a warband. I'm just not in love with their objectives right now.
Right on. Cool. Well, there you have it, guys. That is the explanation and review of Japur's Wraithcreepers. Let us know what your favorites are in the comments and in our Discord and Facebook, because I think this is going to be quite an interesting warband, and fans of death are to be sure to enjoy them, especially if you like aggressive play. So, Jonathan, you want to close us out?
Yeah, absolutely. Once again, thank you to our patron supporters. If you'd like to join our current patrons, you can do so at patreon.com/path to glory. You can find all of our blog content on pathtoglorypodcast.com. If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, let us know on Facebook, Twitter, or Discord at Path to Glory Podcast. Please rate and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you listen. And as always, thanks for listening, and we wish you the best of luck on your path to glory.
Um, Yeah, dude, these horse skulls just creepy.
They remind me of the bird guys from the Dark Crystal. I don't know if you've seen that.
I think you
They
linked a
go.
picture on Discord earlier.
I love the sounds they make.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something about like equine skulls that kind of throws me off, man. Like, you ever watch like those weird shows like The Order on Netflix where like they're wearing like horse and like goat skulls and they're doing like blood magic and stuff?
No, I haven't. I don't
Yeah,
like scary stuff. So Underworlds is
it's
about as scary as I like to go.
yeah. I don't like scary stuff either, but it's not scary. It's just like
Weird and suspenseful.
kind of. It has werewolves in it. That's why I like it, I guess. But
You would.